Welcome to the Marxist Workers Party's podcast, Izwi Labasebenzi, bringing reports and analysis of the news from a working class and Marxist perspective, fighting for jobs for all, a 12,500 Rand per month minimum wage and high-quality service delivery, organising to arm the workers and trade union movement with a revolutionary socialist and Marxist programme, building the struggle against capitalism and for working class political power and socialism.
It's the 17th of May 2021. In this bulletin, public sector wage negotiations deadlock. Saftu's public sector trade unions declare a dispute. And the Working Class Summit gears up to reconvene on the 12th and 13th of June with the creation of a Workers' Party on the agenda. We ask, how can all this be linked up to build a mass movement against the ANC government's attacks on workers and working class communities? The Marxist Workers Party welcomes the declaration by South African Federation of Trade Unions of a dispute with government over public sector pay. This could help prepare the way for a long overdue strike in the public sector and pave the way for a more generalized working class counter-offensive. The ANC government is clearly determined to stick to its wage freeze. Their so-called 0% offer translates into a pay cut after price rises. Over 3 years, the ANC government is attempting to withhold 303 billion rand from the pockets of public sector workers. This comes on top of the 37 billion rand stolen by the cancellation of the final leg of the 2018 pay agreement. Although it is the most immediate issue, the stakes are much higher than just that of pay for national and provincial government employees. Reducing public spending is at the heart of the capitalist class's entire strategy to stabilize crisis-ridden South African capitalism, protecting their own interest by making the working class pay. Budgets for health, education, house building, electricity, water sanitation, and road infrastructure and social grants are being slashed. Working class communities struggling under the added burden of the COVID-19 pandemic will see already poor service delivery weaken even further. The government is waging a relentless propaganda war against public sector workers. They are being demonized as lazy, overpaid, and greedy. The state and the capitalist-owned media is backing up the story every step of the way. Central to their propaganda is the idea that public sector workers have had it too good for too long. Compared to workers in the private sector, we are told, public sector workers have secured jobs, have enjoyed many consecutive years of pay increases, receive higher pay, and so on. This is typical of the cruel beggar-thy-neighbor logic of the capitalist class. Even if the picture was correct, it is not an argument for dragging the public sector workers down, but for organizing and fighting to lift private sector workers up. That requires the unity of the working class across public and private sectors. But this is exactly what the government and media's propaganda is attempting to undermine. The working class must be united against these games of divide and rule. Capitalist lobby groups, Business Unity South Africa and Business Leadership South Africa, are also backing up government. They warn that unless the government cuts public sector wages, South Africa will become, quote, another failed state. Business Unity South Africa has even gone an extra mile and produced a so-called independent study of public sector wages, allegedly proving how overpaid they are. This is being endlessly quoted in the capitalist media. But what is the real situation? Who are the 1.3 million public sector workers? Well, they include 401,000 teachers and education workers, 141,000 nurses, 148,000 police officers, 42,000 doctors and dentists, 35,000 prison officers, and various other social workers, engineers, and so on. Society is screaming out for more of these workers, not less. These are the essential workers who have been on the front line during the pandemic. Up to January this year, 339 government health workers had died from COVID-19. What price tag does the ANC government want to hang on these fallen heroes? About 450,000 public sector workers earn a maximum of 19,000 Rand per month. However, in 2017-18, a full 200,000 of these earned less than 10,000 Rand a month. A further 715,000 workers earn a maximum of 36,000 Rand per month. And these figures are for total remuneration. It is not the wage that goes into the workers' pockets each month. Included in these totals is money that will be taken in tax, including black tax, employer contributions to pensions and healthcare, as well as car travel and other work-related expenses. Taken together, 90% of public sector workers are covered by these figures. This is not a privileged worker aristocracy, but a crucial section of the working class struggling to defend its living standards, just like every other worker. A defeat for the public sector workers will be a defeat for the entire class. The working class must unite against the ANC government's and the capitalist class's attack.
Negotiations have deadlocked. Despite occasional militant posturing, the leaders of the COSATU public sector unions are desperate to avoid a strike. It would mean a showdown with the ANC, whom they prop up in government through the Tripartite Alliance. That is why they have now agreed to a so-called facilitation process outside the normal bargaining council. Embarrassingly, for the COSATU leadership, at the time of publishing this podcast, this is showing no signs of success. All it is doing is fueling the anger of COSATU members and demonstrating anew that the Tripartite Alliance is not only irrelevant, but the central cause of COSATU leaders' conservatism. This has given Saftu the opportunity to seize back the initiative. On the 7th of May, Saftu's policing union SAPU became the first public sector union to declare a dispute. We applaud SAPU for being the first to raise its head above the wall and clearly challenge the class enemy. But this was on behalf of all Saftu members in the public sector. The road has been open to the strike that workers across the public sector have been demanding. Confirming the effect that bold leadership has, the 235,000-strong FEDUSA-affiliated Public Servants Association, the PSA, followed SAPU's lead and declared a dispute on the 11th of May. Saftu's statement announces that, quote, "We are mobilizing our members to prepare for the inevitable protracted general strike." This is crucial. The preparation of the membership is key to ensuring a solid strike. But alone, Saftu's public sector members are a minority in the public sector. Even Saftu and the PSA together constitute less than a quarter of public sector workers. Although the COSATU unions are under enormous pressure from their members to join the strike, it is not guaranteed at this stage. The COSATU leadership is caught between a rock and a hard place. On the one hand, they want to save themselves from the anger of their own members. On the other hand, they are of use to the ANC government only for as long as they are able to police their members by keeping them inside the prison of the Tripartite Alliance. The COSATU leadership claims that this is the best guarantee for the protection of workers' wages and conditions. But the ANC government is not only attacking workers' wages and conditions, collective bargaining, trade union rights, and, given the LRA amendments, the right to strike itself, have been attacked too. The last remaining credibility of the Tripartite Alliance and the future of the COSATU public sector unions is at stake. This is why they are exploring every possibility to avoid even declaring a dispute which would make a strike unavoidable. Therefore, if the COSATU leadership are compelled to call a strike, they will do everything possible to ensure that it is limited and will seize the first opportunity to call it off. The same is ultimately true of the PSA leadership which has rushed ahead of the other unions to declare a dispute, to posture as the most militant and leader of the non-COSATU unions. Therefore, Saftu must have a program to mobilize public sector workers beyond its own ranks. Saftu must make a direct appeal to COSATU members over the heads of their leaders. Many COSATU workers are burning with anger at their leaders. Although there is an exit of members from COSATU affiliates like NEHAU, most members have hesitated, waiting to be convinced that Saftu is a fighting federation serious about class and political independence. Saftu members should take the lead in initiating strike planning committees in every area. This should bring together the shop steward and the rank and file of all unions to make preparations for strike action. The open preparation of the strike will focus the minds of both the government's negotiators and the COSATU leadership as they play their cat and mouse game in the so-called facilitation. Days of action should be organized to take this message to workers. Such committees should not limit themselves to the workers employed by national and provincial government whose unions are negotiating in the PSCBC. They should reach out to local government workers, workers in the state-owned enterprises such as SAA, ESCOM, DENEL, and PRASA, and workers on the expanded Public Works Program, EPWP, and its different spin-offs such as the Community Workers Program and Community Health Workers. All of these workers are ultimately government employees and must be brought into the struggle. There are struggles and disputes across all of these sectors. They need to be united and coordinated around the date for a full public sector strike. This would swell the number of workers taking part in the public sector strike to around 2 million.
The Saftu Public Sector Union statement did not put forward a date or a timescale for embarking on strike action. The declaration of a dispute opens a conciliation process, which could be extended for up to 30 days by the parties. Although the 10 days expire next week, there is no harm to prepare for mid-June as a possible date. This would enable Saftu members to embark on a systematic campaign of fraternization with fellow workers in COSATU to build workers' unity in preparation. Saftu's statement also did not indicate exactly what kind of strike action was being considered. For example, would it be a 1-day or a 2-day strike, a rolling program or an indefinite strike? The Marxist Workers Party believes that a date for a 2-day public sector general strike in the second half of June should be announced by Saftu, regardless of the conciliation process. A date is needed as a rallying point for the mobilization and organization of workers and to focus the work of the strike preparation committees. Again, announcing a date will massively increase the pressure on government as any conciliation process unfolds. An initial 2-day public sector general strike should be followed by a program of rolling action, for example, a 1 or 2-day strikes every week, or striking for 1 week every month, until the government retreats. In 2007 and 2010, an indefinite public sector strike was called from day one. While this matched the anger of the workers at the time, as it undoubtedly does now, it was not the best tactic. It is necessary to learn the lessons of those heroic strikes. It is not a coincidence that both strikes ended around the 1-month mark. With a no work, no pay rule, after 1 month, workers were faced with a choice to retreat or continue at the price of defaulting on rent, bonds, loans, school fees, medical aid, etc. In addition, the ANC government has armed itself with additional legal weapons since these strikes took place. A strike can now be declared illegal by a commissioner if it is judged to be economically damaging, as every single strike is, of course. Although the workers' movement must be prepared to defy unjust laws that prevent the working class from defending itself, there is no need to assist the capitalist class in placing legal obstacle in our way. In addition, the urgency of an all-or-nothing action made the patient work necessary to strengthen organization difficult. Rolling action, on the other hand, allows an assessment to be made at every step of the strength and weaknesses of the action. For example, workers can see which departments and workplaces did not take action and come up with a plan to persuade and mobilize workers to join them in the next round of action. It gives time for the mobilization of workers in local government, the state-owned enterprises, as well as the EPWP, CWP, and community health workers. The Saftu Public Sector Union statement says, quote, "In our view, the strike against government austerity is not and cannot be confined to the public sector." They continue, quote, "Saftu calls on all public sector unions to unite with the rest of the workers in the parastatals and private sector. What is needed is the coordination of all the current disputes so that all workers may embark on the protracted general strike on the same day across the country in every nook and cranny of our economy. We agree that a general strike is necessary. The question is how to build for it. In the last 7 months, 2 general strikes have been called, but both received very limited response and made little impact. The 2-day public sector general strike is the best platform from which to make the call for a 1-day general strike, the call being to join this action. So a general strike must be called in defense of the public sector strike and public sector workers' wage demands. It must appeal to the private sector workers and working class communities with the message, an injury to one is an injury to all, and clearly link the government's slashing of public spending to the dire state of service delivery. A program of public meetings in working class communities and private sector workplaces would be central to the success of a general strike. Let striking workers organize the ANC Minister of Public Service and Administration, Senzo Mchunu's public consultations. Let the answer be, we support the strike.
The political contradictions involved in the public sector pay dispute are obvious. The ANC government is the employer that not only cancelled one pay increase, but is refusing any more for a further 3 years. However, COSATU props up the ANC government through its membership of the Tripartite Alliance, which is led by the ANC. At the start of April, COSATU's Special Central Executive Committee announced that the Federation will support the ANC in local government elections in October. COSATU CEC merely noted as a complication the, quote, real possibility of workers in the public service and the public sector in general will be on strike fighting the wage freeze and retrenchments during elections, end quote. In other words, the COSATU leadership will continue demanding its members give unconditional support for the ANC even in the middle of a strike against it. The COSATU leadership issued this statement in the middle of the PSCBC negotiations. This was a conscious sabotage. It clarified the role of the Tripartite Alliance as a political strike-breaking mechanism. Therefore, the revival of the Working Class Summit by Saftu, currently scheduled to reconvene on the 12th and 13th of June, could not come at a better time. On the agenda will be the next steps needed to create a Workers' Party. The Marxist Workers Party is calling on the summit to agree a launch date for the new party. This will act as a rallying point and a stimulus to organization amongst the forces that must form the new party's initial foundations. We have proposed the 1st of May 2022, 1 year from now on, linked to a campaign to build and organize support for the launching of the new party. The need for a new party must be loudly proclaimed by Saftu in the public sector strike. That the ANC is the party of the capitalist class, determined to present the bill for the crisis they have caused to the working class, could not be clearer. The message from Saftu must be unambiguous. A public sector strike is inherently political. It is one against the ANC government as employer, the implementing agency of the capitalist ANC's political and economic policies. COSATU members must demand their leaders leave the Tripartite Alliance and with COSATU workers' delegations attend the Working Class Summit or leave themselves to join the Saftu public sector unions. It is imperative that the public sector pay dispute itself should be top of the agenda. The COSATU leadership will almost certainly refuse to attend, but let them refuse in front of their members and in defense of the employer attacking them. A campaign to reach out, especially to COSATU shop stewards and members in the public sector, to attend the summit could then be organized with a clear message. Despite your leaders, the invitation remains. Combining the call for a public sector strike linked to the pioneering of public sector strike preparation committees and the skillful use of the Working Class Summit can position Saftu as the rallying point for working class unity and allow it to become the masses reference point for working class militants, organization, and unity towards a mass workers' party on a socialist program, paving the way for the overthrow of capitalism and the building of a democratic socialist society.
If you have any questions or comments about the contents of this bulletin, please let us know, and we may try and respond in future bulletins. Also, if you know about or are involved in any struggles you would like us to report on, whether that is in your workplace, your community, your university, college or school, or have any suggestions of future topics that you would like us to cover, please contact us. The Marxist Workers Party is an affiliate of the Committee for a Workers' International, the CWI, building global working class unity in the struggle for a socialist South Africa, a socialist Africa, and a socialist world. If you would like to join the Marxist Workers Party or find out more about us, including building the CWI in Southern Africa, please visit our website at www.marxistworkersparty.org.za, find us on Facebook and Twitter, or call or WhatsApp us on 081 366 7375.